Hi, my name is Jessica Ventry, and I'm excited to be chatting with educator Pete Klapsogeorge about PCS Edventures, BrickLAB STEAMventures food collections, and all the exciting work he's been doing with his learners in his New Jersey school district. Hi, Pete. How are you?
Hi, Jess. I'm doing well. How are you?
Great. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience and kind of what you do in school and different things like that?
Yeah, so I'm in my 10th year of teaching. Right now, I'm working in the media center at my school. For the previous 4 years, I was a fourth grade teacher. I was a gen ed teacher for inclusion classes. Prior to that, I taught first grade for 3 years. And then before that, I taught kindergarten. So I've kind of been a little bit all over the school. And this year I have K-4 classes for this specials class that I'm teaching.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the specials class that you're teaching?
Sure. So the specials class that I'm teaching this year is kind of new to our school. We're kind of changing the library experience for the students in our elementary school. For my K-2 learners, we focus a lot on library skills for the first half to like 2/3 of the year. And then we get into some problem-based learning around climate change and environmental issues and a little bit of marine science, just because we're rather close to the beach and the ocean. And then for my 3-4 learners, it's a little bit of library skills just because of with COVID and being home and remote learning and stuff like that, just getting current with their library skills to kind of match the times. We do a little bit of that for the first part of the year, and then 2/3 of the last 2/3 of the year, I guess, is more of the PBL type learning, and that's more around climate change, sustainability, just the idea of what it means to live green. So that's where we're going through the rest of the year.
I love it. So it sounds like you're kind of doing a lot of work with them to kind of change the planet and make our world better with kind of STEAM in mind and different things of that sort.
And just getting them to know like their place in the world and how the decisions that their parents might be making right now, we have to inherit in the next generation, and what they choose to do, going forward can change their future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So we're going to dive into just a couple of different questions, because I know that you started a garden with your students a couple of years back, and that kind of cultivated over a bunch of years, and it's been a big part of the school community. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that today.
Sure.
Okay. So we actually have a program at PCS called BrickLAB STEAMventures food collections. And one of the parts of that program is about gardening and taking care of different fruits and vegetables. And in there, learners get to hear about this man named Tony Hillary of Harlem, New York. And he had no prior experience, but he started to garden with his students in school because they couldn't afford fun PE classes or art classes. And it really helped the community in the years to follow, and it still continues today. So I was wondering, what inspired you to start the garden with your students?
Where our school is, it's the whole community has really exploded in terms of development over the past 15 years or so. It was known as a very agricultural area. The school that I work at right now used to be a K-8 school with just a few classes in each grade. And now that population has exploded into basically like a huge suburbia. So, I mean, just kind of giving a nod to like our agricultural past. Our community does have a huge open space program too, where a lot of farmland is preserved. So it's just kind of being in touch with that. And then the garden beds that were behind our school were used before I started working at the school. And they just kind of fell into disrepair. And one year, a few other teachers and I really said, okay, we're going to clean this up and we're going to get started. And that's kind of where it got going. So that was when I was teaching first grade. And it was a great experience for the younger kids.
Did you kind of continue it after your first graders? And I know you moved to fourth grade eventually. Did you do it with your fourth graders as well?
Yeah, yes, we did. And then we actually developed a partnership with a hydroponic farm that we have in town. And that was a great kind of like school community kind of connection. Mm-hmm. So our hydroponic farmer buddy, I guess, he would start little lettuce plugs that were kind of started in the hydroponic farm, which was like a big shipping container. And he would bring them to our school. We would plant them in our garden and then take care of them for, 4 to 6 weeks in the fall and have, a harvest right before the first frost. Or we would take care of them for, from like the end of March through the end of the school year during the springtime, and be able to harvest lettuce and do like the whole triple wash kind of system and salad spinners. And the kids got to actually taste the lettuce and the salads that we made. So we had a couple salad days. They would deliver some salads to the administrators in our school, and just to see that what they put their energy in school was really something that they could kind of pick and things like that. We also had a pizza garden actually kind of been like a annual thing, has been our pizza garden, where we plant tomatoes, basil, thyme, rosemary, things like that that you might need to make an Italian dish or a pizza. And I've had my classes come and we harvest tomatoes during the summertime, and we have a great summer camp program at school that has helped out with maintaining our garden and things like that too. So it hasn't really just been one class. Yeah,
Gotcha.
It's been our class and then the summer program, and then some of the special needs classes. They've loved taking care of the gardens as well. So it's really been a pretty, big school-wide effort. Kind of
Amazing. So you're able to take not only the in-school learning, but out-of-school learning and summer programs, and kind of get everybody involved. So important.
Yeah, and
so
even during recess, like we would have a few kids in my class who really had that green thumb. And they're like, "Oh, can we go water the garden, or can we go pull some weeds?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I have recess duty. I'll watch you guys from the recess field." But they had that initiative, and I could basically trust them to go over there and get out the hose, do what they need to do, pull some weeds,
and they're fourth
make sure
graders.
everything's watered, and they're fourth graders.
Yeah.
So
that goes to show when you
yeah.
give them hands-on learning opportunities, fourth graders, and
Mhm.
even the younger learners, you'll be amazed by the different things that they do. I mean, how many fourth graders want to go pull weeds? Like, that's crazy. It's amazing.
Yeah. And then other kids would see it too, and they're like, "Oh, can I come too?" And I'm like, "Sure, you're not in our class, but why not? More the merrier."
Absolutely. All right. So since we kind of talked a little bit about the hydroponic garden, I want to talk to you a little bit about what you told me that you started already in your media center at school. So PCS does, in our food collections, we talk a lot about starting both indoor and outdoor gardens with whatever amount of space students have available to them, that it's not just you have to grow something outdoors in a big space, but that even indoors you can do something. So can you tell us a little bit about the hydroponic garden you have at school?
Yeah, so we have it's called a grow wall, which is essentially the size of a bookcase. It's probably about 4 to 6 feet wide and 6 feet or so tall. And it's a pretty self-sufficient, self-sustaining kind of system where we have our tank at the bottom, and it's all set on timers and things like that with grow lights. And we could basically put this system in a closet, and as long as there's a little bit of air circulation, we would be able to have a pretty bountiful harvest. So it was kind of like a little bit of like an experimental kind of phase right now where we are, just making sure, like, because we're learning, like the other media specialists and I are learning about, getting our levels right, pH, nutrient levels, making sure things are in the right level where they're producing a lot and not so much. But it's been a great little project for the kids, the way the hydroponic system works, where they can hear it kick on and they know that the plants that are in like the top shelf are getting a drink first, and then it gets circulated through and everything is there and it's contained. And even like we have a tray at the bottom of our system that sits on top of the tank that has like a growing sponge, basically, that these seeds grow in, and they sit in a dark, wet environment for about a week. They begin to sprout, and then we have different levels where we can see, okay, these plants are about 2 weeks old. These plants are 4 weeks or so, and these plants have been growing since beginning of December. And it's been great because I see each class once a week, so they definitely see the changes that have been happening. And
it's very visual.
Even over winter break, we had it set up to do its thing each day, and then when we came back, we had almost like full lettuce plants, which was great. And so it's been a pretty fun thing. And in our library, just almost hearing like that thing, like the water trickling a little bit. It's been like that nice kind of fountain type
A
thing.
little
And then
zen.
also, yeah. And then the grow lights bring that warm color, and that's kind of missing in the wintertime.
Right.
So
Very cool. Bringing kind of like the outdoors indoors. Everybody needs that nowadays. Kind of just little
yeah,
nature inside. I love that.
yeah.
All right. So did you notice any changes in your learners' behaviors kind of as they started working on the garden? And what do you think might have sparked those changes if you did?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to kind of tell right now just because our whole hydroponic kind of endeavor is kind of new. But with the gardens that we would have outside in the fall and spring, I definitely noticed a big change in like the ownership that my students kind of developed, and seeing like, we started out with like a weedy mess of a garden bed, and then all of us worked together for maybe like a 40-minute period during science one day, all hands on deck. We got everything cleaned out. So we have a great before kind of picture, a great after picture. And then we would go out during math another time to kind of plan out like our grid and how we would plant things. We had so many plants, and if we knew they needed this much room to grow. So getting things started, and then go and do check-ins, like, if it's twice a week as we're walking out to the recess field or walking around school to get to, gym or art or something like that. Just being able to stop by and be like, oh, look at what's going on there. And then even like the kids that would get dropped off for a parent drop off in the morning or parent pickup in the afternoon, they'd be like, oh, we've been working on that garden, and their parents can see too. So it's like, not only are the students taking like interest in it, their parents are as well. So it's just kind of seeing that the choices that they make matter, and then that the effort that they're putting in also matters too.
Absolutely.
So I feel like that has been a huge piece that's not always like it comes about through like learning in the classroom, but I feel like it's that hands-on piece outside the classroom that it's a little bit different that kids don't always get.
Right. And especially since you're getting that social piece, like that working together and that community building while teaching specific science skills and teaching math skills, like even maybe like you said the gridding and doing like an array and different things in the garden. So being able to actually integrate science, engineering, technology, all of those math skills with social skills is invaluable.
Yeah. And then like before, when our beds were rebuilt by an Eagle Scout a couple years ago for his project, and before that the beds were too wide for the students to reach in the middle. So it's like we went out there and we said, okay, we have this area, how can we redesign it so it's easier for us to reach, easier for the younger kids to reach, easy for kids who might have mobility issues to get around too. So that was like a little kind of like Friday math centers type thing where we were doing some design work too, which was pretty neat.
Very cool. And you have a history and like you have a background in, is it architecture?
It's environmental planning and design.
Environment,
So landscape architecture, which is kind of like civil engineering minus all the math. So a little bit more design oriented. So
all right. Well, bringing
some of that back.
Yeah,
full circle.
sure. Absolutely.
Like
I mean,
yeah.
Our kids learn the most from educators, right? So whatever our background is, putting that in there you're only going to give them more knowledge.
Yeah, my whole undergrad was PBL. So it's like PBL isn't really it's like not a new concept, It's kind of like what I was raised doing. So
your students are very lucky.
Thank you.
All right, I have one more question for you. So at PCS, we're really, really passionate about making sure that STEAM programs are innovative and fun, and they're interactive for all learners of every age. So I just wanted to ask you, as a STEM educator yourself, what advice would you offer to other educators who are interested in integrating STEAM in their classroom or their program to better their instruction?
So I think it's just kind of taking on that mindset that what's being taught, in a certain content area doesn't have to be taught in isolation. So I think trying to reach for like those cross-curricular connections. And I think that can be done rather easily if you kind of take a minute and just kind of think, what are like the big picture like takeaways or the essential questions that maybe you should focus on, and think of it in like a big picture kind of way. And I think that is a great way to make what might seem like a weird, like a far stretching kind of thing that might be a little bit out of your wheelhouse. I think it makes it a little bit more manageable when you think about it that way. And just making those connections, like if you're doing something in science, how easily it can tie in with math and how easily it can tie in with reading and writing, where rather than like just doing one thing in reading and a different thing in writing, you'll be able to connect it all. And I feel like those cross-curricular connections and transference of skills kind of will happen more naturally, which will make things stick a little bit better.
Right. And as educators,
students in class,
as we figure that out, like as we start to make those connections, and our kids are going to see how all of these skills transfer into their actual lives and how they can use them in their futures. Yeah. Absolutely. Is there anything else you'd like to share? Yeah,
I mean, I think that the whole just getting kids to learn about the outside. I went to a great training through one of the local universities near me back in the fall, and it was focused on climate change. And one of the big takeaways from that was like, all you really need to get students to do is just to pay attention to what's going on in the world around them. Just stop and observe. Like if there's even a tree in the schoolyard, like why are the leaves shaped the way they are? Like why do evergreen trees look the way they do? What are your guesses for why things are the way they are? And it's not something that has to be done by having a nature preserve or having a pond near your school, but just being able to learn about things that are going on just in your immediate environment, I think is a great thing for kids to do. And it's just strictly through observing and just giving them that time to kind of sit and watch, and they'll make their own discoveries too, which kind of opens up great discussions too.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much, Pete, for chatting with me and with PCS Edventures. And I think educators are going to gain a lot from your insight into how to kind of start a garden with students and all the great benefits that come from that. So thank you.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Jess. Thank you.
Have a good one.
Thanks, Jess.